to be exact. I have my daughter lives in Plano, Texas, which is not far from me, right? And she tells me, she says, "Hey, Dad, I want to get a little better uh, training with my guns so I can carry it me a little bit more, be a little bit more comfortable with it." So she reached out to me in like April or so, and I said, "Okay, that's fine." I said, "I have a range up in Livingston, Texas, where we train and do all sorts of things with law enforcement." So I meet me up there, and then she said, "Okay, Dad, wait a minute. I have grandma in town that same weekend, so I can't make it." So I was like, "Okay, well, we can reschedule, right?" So God put in her heart to reach out to me for the training, right? So I'm working on May the 6th at one of the restaurants doing security for him here in Stafford, and I get my phone that they had a shooting at Allen at Mall, and I was like, "Man, wait a minute, why does that sound familiar?" Well, the Allen Outlet Mall is less than 10 minutes from my daughter's house, so right away I pick up the phone and I call her, and she doesn't answer. So I call her again, and she doesn't answer. So I sent her a text message and said, "Hey, girl, call me ASAP." And of course, she picks up the phone and calls, but she wouldn't answer when I call her. Right? Yeah, she's gonna be 27 this month, so that's kind of how kids communicate today on text message, right? So she said, "Dad, are you okay?" I said, "I'm fine." I said, "Where are you?" "I'm at home studying." I said, "Okay, good." I said, "I imagine you don't know what has transpired." And she says, "What is?" I said, "There's an active shooter down the street from the house at the Allen Mall." And she's like, "Whoa." And she stopped talking on the phone. I said, "You okay?" "Yeah." She says, "I was supposed to go to that mall today, but I went last night instead." So I said, "Okay, I want you to understand something." I said, "God put it in your heart to ask me about getting some more training so you can be a little bit more comfortable with carrying a gun, right? And we didn't do that training yet. So he put it on your heart to go to the mall on Friday instead of the day on Saturday, right? So I want you to always remember to follow your mind, God, right? So, of course, we've had multiple trainings since then, uh, a few of them to where now she wants to keep some of my guns because she likes mine's better. So I had to end up getting her some of the same things that I use at work. So, along with being a chief at Precinct 5, I'm also a alert instructor. As we can see on the far right there on screen, alert stands for Advanced Law Enforcement Rapid Response Training, which is the number one standard of active shooter active attack response worldwide. What that simply means is that wherever we are, wherever there's an attack, we go to those locations and we find out what people done really well to survive the attack and what others done not so well, right? And there's three things that have been in common since we have been in existence in 2004, and that's to avoid the attacker. If you can't avoid the attacker, deny him access to where you are, and if they get into where you are, ultimately defend yourself. Fair enough? All right. What really birthed our program was this event right here in Columbine. Some of you all may be familiar with it. It occurred back in 1999. So, because of this event at a school in 1999, Alert was born, right? And most of us will call this an active shooter, but it was simply a failed bombing, as we can see two attackers place 99 explosive devices inside of the school, hoping to blow the school up. And as the school starts to disintegrate and collapsed. They were hoping the kids would run out, and as they waited outside with rifles and shotguns to shoot kids, right? As we can see, only 30 of them detonated. So they improvised went inside the school. And as it says, killed 13, but now that number is up to 16 because there are some people that have perished from those injuries that they received back on the day, right? So back then we had a 2-minute law enforcement response. That's actually pretty quick, but unfortunately, they were not trained, as most people say, to handle a situation like that. I think it's good. It's kind of going in and out. I'm not sure why, right? But while you're sitting outside looking for SWAT, what's happening on the inside of the building? People getting hurt, people getting killed, right? So this is why um, our program was created. Make sure that we train every police officer how to respond to an attack or such. But here's the thing: no matter how much training you have, and I had to explain this to a dad a few weeks ago that lost his kid in Parkland, uh, Florida, to an active shooter, where 17 kids were killed and 17 were wounded, and they had a police officer there that worked at the school for 32 years and refused to go inside the building. So no matter how much training you have, if it's not here in your heart and you don't have the right mindset, you're not going to do what you're supposed to do under stress. Okay, you have to have the training, of course, but you have to have the mindset. You have to have the heart to go charge into gunfire. It's just that simple, right? Uh, it's unfortunate that that school resource officer in Parkland didn't do so. So, in teaching law enforcement officers how to respond, I want y'all to understand that every cop is not going to respond the same way. They may be trained the same way, but their mindset is different. Their heart is different. Just like everyone here in this room, our mindset is different and our heart is different. Even though you may sit in on the same presentation and get the same information, this is different, and so is this. All right. We'll talk about the middle mindset as we move forward in this presentation. Does anybody have any questions about Columbine at all? Very good. Okay. So here's a quick video that if you go to avoid.fin.org, you can actually see the same video and share it with your families and friends. Let me make sure my speaker's working here. There's a gunman inside the store. We need help now. Can y'all hear it? You can probably leave the lights off. Maybe better. Anybody have any questions in reference to the video at all?
Questions?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
No, no, I was just wondering if it is good for the kids age 10 and under.
So here's the thing. If you go to the store, the grocery store, your kids go with you, wouldn't it be good for them to know what to do too? Right? Because sometimes the amount of stress that you're already under as an adult, kids may not be under the same amount of stress, right? So it allows them to perform a little bit better and remember things better than it does someone that's been here for say 40 years, right? So the knowledge that you have, they should have just as well. Or go to school. You're not with them, right? So isn't it good for them to know exactly what they need to do? I had the opportunity to visit with. Now he is, I think, years old, 22 years old, and he was a first grader at Sandy Hook Elementary. He was 6 years old. All right. At one of the alert conferences several years ago, and he knew exactly what he needed to do as a 6-year-old because watching and learning from the fire drill that they would do at school, route that they took during the fire drill, and understanding that his uncle was a police officer. His dad was an avid hunter, so he understood a little bit about guns. So when the shooter came in his classroom, he knew when he ran out of bullets and he needed to reload. So he knew that was time for him to get out of the classroom. And he ended up taking 7 of his classmates. Y'all follow me as they ran out the classroom as the shooter started to reload. So just that knowledge that he had allowed him to save himself as well as 7 of his classmates at 6 years old. Right? A lot of mental trauma he's still dealing with, of course, and he will for the rest of his life. But he has a life, right? Okay. Any other questions? Yes. I, I can't hear him. Can we give him a mic? We got one up here, right?
Um, Quick question, please. At what point can you shoot an active shooter? So when this guy came down and got a gun, would it be right to shoot him right there and then?
If no further threat, if we've already taken care of the threat, then you're looking at excessive force at that point. Does that, does that answer the question? Okay. Next.
The from the example that you just was, you the guy went in with a bag, right? With a luggage, actually a luggage. And is it possible for the law enforcement authorities to liaise with supermarkets to probably find a way of people not carrying? I'm not saying handbag. Handbag is a small size stuff, but when it comes to you carrying backpack and the rest of it, particularly when guns these days can be quickly assembled with inside, that is the long gun, because it comes it's in a modus, yeah. And if there is a way that the law enforcement, together with the politicians, can liaise with business community, that when if you are going in with more than a specific something size of a bag, you have to, it shouldn't be allowed in. Is it possible to do that?
So I'm going to address one thing at a time. Law enforcement and politicians don't see eye to eye. Okay, that's the first thing. Um, Secondly, when you have an establishment, that establishment gets to dictate who and what comes in it. Okay, just take for instance an NFL football game at the stadium at NRG Stadium. So the NFL controls that entire facility. They don't allow anybody to go in there without having a clear bag, which means you can see through it. It can be a backpack, but it's got to be clear, and I have to be able to see through it. So, in order for facility, law enforcement, and politicians to get together and have one common goal, yeah, not happening. Seems simple though to be able to save lives, right? But um, what happens is, unless it affects the politicians directly, they don't want to. And it's really sad, but uh, it seems very easy to make that decision. We all sit down at a table and have a conversation and make things safer for our community, but we don't see eye to eye on things like that. You know, the average politician would frown upon me wearing this vest right here, but it protects me and has everything I need to solve problems as well as save lives, right? But the thing is that when you haven't done it, then you don't know it. You know, um, so it's a very difficult place to be in. But myself, because here's the thing, I was actually planning on running for sheriff for Fort Bend County. Okay, the stress of doing it and things of that nature, I couldn't because I'm not a politician. I'm a cop. I'm a police officer. I save lives. So transferring that mindset to be a political official wouldn't work for me because I'm going to end up saying that I probably shouldn't say. I'm going to end up doing something I probably shouldn't do. So I needed to go ahead and stay in my lane, be a cop, and save lives instead of being a politician. Even though I would have been the head of the agency and be able to make decisions, but there's certain decisions that need to probably not be said and or done as a politician. I don't. That's not me. So I decided not to run. I hope I answered your question, but I, I mean, it's just not going to happen. You know, it takes people to be able to have a common goal and reach. You know, and for whatever reason, they don't want to do that. Any other questions?
So I know we probably have a lot of questions. I have one, but I just wanted to check in with you with the time as well.
I have. I'm here for y'all today.
Okay.
I-
Well, our program,
Good.
our program. I just want to make sure the stuff you want to present as well, you're able to get. We have 1.5 more hours
Okay.
for this particular session of the program. So,
Okay. Awesome.
all right, you have.
Yeah, Chief, since it's our legal right to protect and defend ourselves, so for someone that is linked to guns, can you recommend the type of gun that somebody can buy to protect yourself?
The type is going to depend on you and what you feel comfortable with. So that means there are some ranges that you can go to that you can rent a gun to shoot it to see if you like that one versus another. So that would be simply up to you. What's comfortable for me to use may not be comfortable for you to use. So
Uh, all right. Thank you, Chief.
yes,
My question is kind of related to this, but in another dimension. First, I want to comment on what you said when you responded to one of our grammars that when an attacker is reloading his gun, that's the best time to escape or the best time to attack him.
yes,
Because I think I shared this with our one of our security chiefs too, that there is this horrible incident that happened in New Zealand a couple of years ago. It was live streamed on Facebook, and that guy was shooting in the masjid sporadically, and at a point in time, all the bullets were finished. So he was reloading. So one of the FBI agents that we brought the other time, he told us that that was the perfect time for the community to get up and rush to him. So, but everybody was panicked, so we don't want to die, and everybody ended up dying. So that is the yeah. Thank you for that comment. So my question now is to protect ourselves. We are allowed to have guns, right? Now I heard that even if someone boggles into your house and you shoot him or her from the back, you are going to be in trouble. So if I have a gun and somebody comes into my house to attack me, and maybe the person is going and I have the opportunity of shooting him, I will end up having problems dealing with the law and some other stuff. Can you please shed more light in this area? Thank you.
yes. Okay. So several years ago, when I say several, I mean probably 15 or 20 years ago, that used to be the case. Shoot somebody in the back, then you'll be in trouble, right? Well, we law enforcement actually done that one, shot somebody in the back. But what happened was it was on video when he shot the guy in the back. The guy's running away, and he does this to the officer, shoots at the officer, but the officer shoots back, and he shoots him in the back. And they saw where, okay, that is not always the case when you shoot somebody in the back. When someone breaks in your house, okay, at night, especially at night, you have the right to protect yourself and your property, your family, by any means. Okay, you have to be able to understand that. Have we seen in certain cases where a burglar breaks into somebody's house and the homeowner hurts them, and then the burglar turns around and sues the homeowner and wins? Yes, we've seen that civilly, but criminally, no. You won't have any criminal responsibility. Now, here's the thing: you have to understand once you have stopped the threat, then at that point, your force needs to stop. Does that make sense? So if you shot him once and you stop the threat, he's on the floor. Probably not a good idea to go shoot him again and again and again and again. Does that make sense? Once you stop the threat, okay, he's not a threat anymore. Then you call the authorities or either evacuate, get your family out, things of that nature. Did I answer your question? Okay.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
I have a question.
Sure.
Before I ask the question, ẹ jọ̀ọ́ nítorí our people. Ẹ jọ̀ọ́ nítorí wa kúrò nílé wa láti wá sí láti gbọ́ nǹkan tó ń sọ. Ẹ jẹ́ ká ní sùúrù. Ẹ tó bá fẹ́ sọ̀rọ̀ kó jáde kó lọ bára wọn sọ̀rọ̀. Ẹ jọ̀ọ́ nítorí Ọlọ́run. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Now, somebody asked you about, buying a what kind of guns or source of that. My question is, that was it. When they said the people that own guns, most of the gun is on themselves, on the household. Could you please talk about that? And most importantly, when you have children in the house, how to lock your gun and separate it from the children. Please, can you expatiate on that?
Okay. So here's the thing. Having a gun does not solve your problem. It does not protect you 100%. Having training when having a gun is what helps in protection. You can't just go to the store, buy a gun, and then go to the range and get certified to be a license to carry one time and you're good at it. No. Okay. Here's the thing, having a gun and having to use a gun, whenever that occurs, your heart rate is going to increase. Your stress level is going to increase. Okay. Understanding that your ability to use it is going to be different than when your heart rate is down here and your stress level is down here. Okay. That's why it's important to train or go shoot under stress. We say, well, how do you do that? You raise your heart rate. Whenever I teach law enforcement officers about shooting, I always raise their heart rate because that's where their heart rate's going to be in a shooting. Even though they didn't take off running, right? Your heart rate's going to elevate because it's a stressful moment. And when the stress level goes up, so does your heart rate. And you need to understand that about yourself. We're going to talk about that as we move forward in the presentation, right? So it's important to understand that. Now, we talked about, it was one of the things you mentioned. So keeping it safe from kids. Technology has advanced so much today, right? To where you can buy a gun safe, put your gun in the gun safe, and it will only open if your hand or your finger touch it. You can set it up to where it's to your fingerprint to be able to get to it. And the reason why technology has come up with that is because prior to you had a combination that you had to work and turn a knob, right? Then they made push buttons. You push a button to open the safe, right? Those things, when you're under stress, are hard to do, right? You start turning and you turn too far and you miss the number, or you press the wrong number. Under stress, they found out that that doesn't work. So the easiest thing to do is now we have a fingerprint recognition. You put your hand on it, or you put a particular finger, just like your phone, right? We used to have just a code to open the phone or a little, right? Now we just have a thumb opens your phone. Don't take any stress, any stress to do that, right? So buying a gun safe, maybe a small one, right? They have all shapes and sizes to where you can just use a thumb or your palm print and open the safe. And if a kid tries and does it, it doesn't match his because his is not put into that piece of technology. Does that make sense? Sure.
Money. The first thing is how do you increase your stress without being stressed? That's the one that and then increase your heart rate
Yes.
without anything happening. So that's one question.
Okay.
The second question is that I've had that some John Torio law. The next question is I've had that you can separate your bullet, the gun, or that's the way to lock it up and unlock it. You know, not the same, just the gun by itself.
Okay. So the only way you're going to increase your stress is to increase your heart rate. And that's maybe some calisthenics, some exercising, some push-ups, some sit-ups, some running. That'll increase your stress, right? And that'll increase your heart rate. That's the only way you're going to be able to get close to the amount of stress you're going to be under in a stressful moment, right? Now, here's the thing. If you're going to have your gun here and your ammo here, and in that stressful moment, it's time to load it and get it up and operational, you have to train to do that. But you have to train to do that under stress because it's going to be hard to do. It's easy to do while we're sitting in here right now. No problem. I load it. Boom. Okay, I'm good. But when the threat is coming through the door, it's going to be different to do it. So if you got a gun safe, it stays loaded and ready and in the gun safe. That takes a step out of you having to deal with it under stress. Good? All right.
Yeah, I have a question here. Yeah, thank you for coming again. The last time you were here was really, really illuminating. I learned a lot,
Yes.
and the first few weeks after the training, anytime I entered the supermarket, I was aware. But after a while, I didn't think about it anymore. So my question is that how do you keep up that awareness? And how do you kind of make it part of you? Because after a while, I just
Yeah. So how often you come here? You come here to be reminded, right? Now, can I come and see you at once a week? Probably not, right? Uh, by having all of you all here, that's a reminder from each person. Okay. 4 months from now, okay, it's kind of slipped my mind. Well, one of the people here may come up to you and says, "Hey, are you still watching when you go to the grocery store?" That's the reminder that you get from each and every person in here. It becomes a false multiplier. That's why we're here today together to take care of each other so that 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months down the road, you're not on your toes like you should be. You get a reminder from one of the family members here. And that's how you do it. For me, I get my reminder from all y'all when I come to do this. I understand my purpose even more when I'm able to speak. Therapy for me right now.
Okay, so okay, so we'll have Ian, please. Ian.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Thanks for always coming to come and give us this beautiful awareness.
Yes, sir.
So, my question is, beside the active shooter training that you're providing to us right now, there was a time, I think a few weeks ago, in my neighborhood, a boy was almost kidnapped. You
Okay.
probably heard about the story. The boy left the house. He's a 16-year-old boy. Left the house. The parents were panicking, thinking he wanted to run away, actually, right? So they engaged the law enforcement. Fortunately for them, it took almost 2 to 3 days. They were able to find him. But this is what happened. When they engaged the law enforcement team, they went into his social media, found his phone, collected his phone, went into who was he talking to, who has he been interacting with in the last couple of days. What they now found out was talking to these people that keep traffickers, right?
Okay.
And they weren't aware of it. They paid for him to go take a Uber, what is the public transport? Greyhound, right? To go take a Greyhound that will take him to California to go meet these people. So the law enforcement agents, when they saw all of that, the timing and everything, now went to the park, is Houston Greyhound Park, to go with him. And lo and behold, he came there to want to go join that bus. And they realized these were traffickers, right? Kid traffickers. So my question is, what kind of training can you offer to our youth, to a community like ours, to prepare us, to basically sensitize our youth? Because a lot of time, this type of training, when I give it to myself, it's not going to sink in the way when you give it to them, it's going to sink in. So if there are trainings like that that you can, we also need to bring in people to help us with, to engage our community, our youth, will appreciate it. So I don't know if there's something like that that the law enforcement agents has.
So we have a youth citizen youth police academy at our precinct that will cover things of that nature. But the biggest thing I will tell you as a parent, one, you're outnumbered. As a parent, you're outnumbered. Okay. When they get this device right here, you're outnumbered. Unless you know exactly what they're doing on it and you have some type of parental guidance of it, right? To be able to kind of lock it down when you need to. Uh, we have jobs, we go to work multiple hours a day. The kids go to school, they get influenced by other kids at school, they get influenced by social media. You want to be a good parent, say, hey, here you go, here's the phone, here's the best phone, and do what you do with it. No, you don't need to be your kid's friend. You need to be their parent and not allow them to be corrupted by social media because that's exactly what's happening. They're being corrupted. Even though you feel like, well, I'm giving them freedom. No, no. They'll thank you for it later. They may get a little mad, but you have to limit their social media accessibility and what they're getting on and what they're not getting on. Now, if there is a program that talks about youth using social media, we don't have that, but we can create it. We can definitely create it. It's very easy to do. Um, most of our terrorists recruit our youth on social media here in the United States to become terrorists, even though they're Americans, right? So um, I don't have a a program available right now, but as a parent, you just can't allow your child, your kid, to be able to be readily accessible to every social media platform. You just kind of have to limit it, and they're gonna tell you, well, my friend has it. My friend has Instagram. My friend has TikTok. Okay, th- that's your friend. That's not you. And you have to limit it. So
Okay, so I think we'll maybe take a break from questions now. But since I hold the mic, I'll ask the last question. So, so, um, so yeah, thanks. You've been answering a lot of questions with regards to our individuals, our families, and stuff. But we're a religious organization, just like any other. We come, say, for instance, here or in our masjid, wide open area. And looking at the example, the video you gave us just now, it had the avoid, the deny, it was a lot more easier. But when you're in an open area like this, where you don't, it might be a little bit difficult. What would you do?
so here's the thing. I noticed that we have cameras inside. Okay. Do we have them outside? Okay. So that's step number one. Having someone monitor cameras on what's happening outside, which allows you to be able to deny access on the inside of a facility like this. If you don't constantly have somebody, there we go, the cameras, perfect, right? If you don't have that, that's definitely a heads up. It tells you what's about to happen before it gets into the facility like this. And that's huge right there. Every company that I know, especially a large company, even at our precinct, we have these cameras, and it allows us to be able to see what's happening on the outside before the threat makes it on the interior of a large facility where you have a bunch of people. So having cameras, you're one step ahead of the average out there. But you got to be able to monitor it, though. You can't just have the tool and not use it, right?
So if they bypass the camera and they come in and we all got it,
And then at that, you're gonna have a few people in here that's gonna go straight to that threat. Okay. And those individuals in here know who you are already. You're gonna go straight to the threat. That's just who you are as a person, you know. Uh, and here's how you know if you're that person. When your family and friends call you with all their stress and their problems, that's them knowing that you handle stress a little bit better than they do. So they're calling you for the answer. So that's the exact same thing you're going to do when a problem appears inside of this building. Is you're going to go straight towards it, no matter if you may perish in doing so. But that's just who you are as an individual, right? And God chooses those individuals. And when you understand His purpose for you, it's very easy for you to do. Yes, sir. All right, we ready? Can we go back?
Yeah. Well,
I like this little setup y'all got here. We didn't have all these streets last time.
something new.
See, that's a little bit of advancement right there, right? So
That's right.
you can leave camera up over here, camera up over here. We can still watch what's going on outside and have the presentation in here. So since we had a lot of questions, we're going to go fast. We're probably going to bypass some of the history stuff. That way, we can get to the topic, beyond. So, main objective for the attacker is to kill a lot of people. Unfortunately, that's not going to ever change, which is one of the reasons why we're here right now to teach you how to better survive it. Because law enforcement can't stop it from happening. Okay. One of the main goals of the attacker, obviously, like I said, is to kill a lot of people because a lot of attackers have absolutely no profile, which means everybody's capable of doing it. Males, females, foreigners, Americans, even kids, right? We've seen it where kids have actually done this, which is kind of sad. And a lot of them have an individual mindset, which means, hey, you did me wrong, you're going to pay for it. And you may not even done anything to them. And as we talked about a second ago, a ton of them broadcast on social media. Now, they may not talk about the event exactly, but they may have small tidbits of information about where their mindset is, right? But we don't really pay attention to that, unfortunately. We just kind of scroll up and going. We don't even pay attention to the information that that person's sending out. And that's why, like he was telling about earlier, about law enforcement going into this kid's social media and finding out some things. So when you keep track of your kids' social media, you'll be able to understand some things about who they're talking to and what they're talking about. That's very important. Okay. I don't want to hear nothing about privacy and none of that stuff. Kids don't have privacy. They don't pay any bills, they don't get privacy. I'm sorry.
Tech gear.
Okay. All right, here we got some risk factors of the attackers, history of violence, of course, the exposure. Now, the exposure doesn't have to be real. Some of the exposure is online, right? And that online gaming, when we allow our kids to play all these violent games, that becomes embedded in their mind. And some kids can't distinguish between what's real and what's not. Fiction, nonfiction, right? So you have to kind of limit that exposure too when we're talking about playing video games, right? Remember, you do not have to be kids' friend. You're their parent or guardian. Treat them as such, okay? As soon as you start being their friend, that's when you start running into problems, okay? Then we have some substance abuse issues, very few, and then that mental illness. Mental illness is very key. Uh, most of us in here probably think that we don't have any mental health issues, but I can guarantee you everyone in here does. If you're going through some things or have gone through some things, it will affect you mentally. If you don't get any type of mental health, then it will continue to affect you, and it'll start stacking. It's like pouring water in a glass. Eventually, it will start to overflow, right? And you'll have problem after problem after problem after problem, and it'll start affecting your mental health, right? And getting some help with mental health is just very simple. I go once a week, every Tuesday morning, and talk to my therapist, and that's all we do is talk. What's going on? And I let it go. And when you let it go, you get rid of it. You ain't holding on to it anymore, right? Then we have the history of suicidal ideation. Some of them stalk and harass their estranged spouses, things of that nature. Then we have the negative family dynamics, right? And I always like to say zero support system. When I say support, I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about that person that you spend time with, that person you sit down and eat with, that person you go shopping with, that person you go watch a movie with. When you don't have that, you start pulling back. You start having some mental issues, right? Then you start isolating yourself. And isolation is very key. And some of us here may have that issue where you come home from work and your kid come home from school, they go and they shut the door, and you go in your room and you shut your door. That's isolation, big time. And I can guarantee you they're talking to somebody that they shouldn't be talking to, right? When I was married, I know he asked how family was. I got divorced in April of this year. I had a 12-year-old stepson that thought that it was okay to come in the house and close the doors, and we had talked about that wasn't a thing to do, and he lost. So the door came off the hinges and went in the attic. You don't pay no bills, close no doors, right? And that's just how it was, right? So here we have a map of active attacks and active shooters across our nations where the yellow dot is where a gun was used, red dot is where a knife was used, and then a blue dot is where a vehicle was used. As you see the map starting to fill in, you start noticing some states have more attacks than others. And I'll tell you right now, one of those states is California. Another state is going to be Florida, and then of course several other states up there in the up north, northeast. California has a lot of attacks because they have some very strict gun laws. But when you look at the map and you look at what we call it, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming. Let me see if I get my clicker to work. Here we go. So we got these states up here: North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, Montana. Not many attacks up here, and that's because they don't have any gun laws. Everybody there has a gun and have had guns for years, right? So when you don't have a gun, you become a very soft target. Not telling everybody to go out and buy a gun. Oh, that's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is that if you don't have one, it's easy to be shot versus having one, right? Because you don't have one, you're a soft target. Easy for me to shoot you if you can't shoot back. If you have one, you're a hard target. Hard for me to shoot you if you're shooting back at me. Does that make sense? And the people that do these attacks, they know this already. That's why they pick places like churches, schools, because they know they're soft targets. And people there can't have or don't carry any type of weapons, right? Now, I taught this class up in Billings, Montana, several years ago at a Union Pacific Railroad company, and there were 75 people in that class. At their job, there were 77 guns in the classroom. So that means everybody had a gun on. Now, I had two on me, but everybody had one on them. So you imagine somebody showing up at that job upset wanting to start some problems. How many guns they're gonna have pointed at them, right? So that's why they don't have issues like that up there in those states. So politicians make those laws where people can't buy or carry a gun as easy in those states as they do in, like, say, California. California, you can't be seen walking around the average person just carrying a gun. They just don't allow it. Florida's laws to be like that, but they've kind of weakened their gun laws, so it's a little bit better. So here we have a chart that I saw from last um, research. One of the researchers sent me, and I started to take it out of the presentation, but then I saw how many active attacks we had in the year 2020, and it was 42 attacks here in the United States, and I was like, man, what did we hear about in 2020 on the news instead of attacks? What did we hear about? COVID, right? So that's the media going to tell you exactly what they want you to know and nothing more, right? We had 42 attacks here in the United States, and they didn't talk about not one of them on the news in the year 2020 because they felt like COVID was killing more people, so they didn't think you needed to know about it, right? So location of attacks, 50% of the time of the business, right? Then we got about 25% outdoors, about 18% or so in schools, and then about 8% other. We would think schools would be a little bit higher than that because we hear about schools all the time. Why did we hear about schools all the time? This is our kids, right? Probably anybody in this room as an adult had to be concerned about this as a kid, right? Especially in elementary. The only thing you had to be concerned about was me and you on the playground at 3 o'clock. That's it, right? But now we have to be concerned about this occurring. And we got outdoors. Where were the outdoors? We had some outdoors. Anybody remember where we had some outdoors? Yes. One in Vegas, right? Boston Marathon, right? Where would other be? Parks and where else? Malls of business. Movie theaters is a business. Other is your home. Your home, the park, the intersection right there in your neighborhood, in your community. That's what other, right? And and we can see that's a very low percentage. Why is it a low percentage? Why y'all think it's a low percentage? Say it again. Not too many people. So these people that want to do this, they want to go somewhere where they know it's going to be a lot of folks, right? So type of firearms used, pistols mainly, because they're concealable. And then of course, right after that is rifles, right? So here's the thing. I'm gonna give y'all a real pro tip right here, real quick. If you get hit with a pistol round anywhere on your body except the head, you have an 80% chance of surviving as long as you address the wound. Okay. If you get hit with a rifle round anywhere on the body except the head, you have a 20% chance of surviving. But you have to address that wound because a rifle round will tear you up pretty bad. Okay. And that's why they like using it. So primary weapon use in the United States, of course, is a firearm. If we go like say China, that firearm is way down, rates are really high. January of 2021, we had one guy get on the subway and stab 48 people with a knife in China, killing 27 of them. Right. So the trick on that is he knew very well how to use the knife. There's a spot right up underneath your rib cage here that you hit on an individual and you take their life immediately with a knife, right? And he knew that very well. So the number of deaths on an active attack depend on if you call law enforcement really quick, okay? And then, of course, you have to try to avoid that attack deny access to where you are, and if all else fails, defend yourself. Because what is the average time for law enforcement to show up to an active shooter? Anybody know? 45 minutes? Now, when I ask that question, what is the average time for law enforcement to show up to an active attack? I'm not talking about a cop in a patrol car in a uniform. I'm talking about an officer that may be at the mall that day shopping with his family, and then something happens. 3 minutes. Is that a long time? Oh, yes. Anybody here watch boxing? How long is a boxing round? 3 minutes. We've seen what people can do with these in 3 minutes. You imagine what somebody can do with a gun. So I don't want nobody to get the clock in their head. Chief Hubbard said, all I got to do is last 3 minutes and the cavalry going to be here. No. I want you to avoid, deny, defend. Okay? So this is some of the history. We're going to kind of go bypass it because I want to be able to save some time because I know y'all going to have some questions at the end, right? Agreed? Okay. We're going to bypass some of the history. If y'all want to hear about it, just let me know. Okay? This is good force, an active attack, 35 wounded, 13 killed. I'm going to back up real quick. This is Edmond, Oklahoma, where the term going postal was created, where a postal worker killed 14, wounded 6, right? And kind of kid did the attack because he didn't like females who wouldn't date him, right? After he ran out of bullets, shooting females at 10 different locations, he used his car and started running people over. He actually killed his roommates before his car, making a video and posting it on social media. We all know about Post-Michael, right? 58, 49 killed, right? The guy actually went to Disney World first to do this attack, and then he saw 6 police officers there, so he decided to leave there because he didn't want to deal with those hard targets, and he went to this club here that he frequent. And as you can see, shot 102 people in less than 5 minutes. It's like, well, how do you do that? How do you shoot 102 people in 5 minutes? I'll tell you how. When you're lying on the floor playing dead, it's easy for me to shoot you. That's why playing dead is not an option. Okay? Yeah. Vegas, we all heard about that one, right? 58. That number now is, I think, 62 killed because a few people have died from complications. This was also a field bombing. He tried to blow up the gas tanks for the jet fuel at the first. And once he couldn't do that, he started shooting into the crowd at the concert, right? And then Sutherland Springs, I actually responded to this one right here myself personally. 20 people outside in the parking lot, and 24 of the 26 people inside the church, right? The neighbor across the street is the one that stopped this guy. Went, grabbed his rifle, and start putting some rounds on him. Okay. So this by far is one of the most important slides of the presentation, the disaster response, because it's about you and how you respond in a high stress situation. Because it's going to be different sitting here right now where your heart rate's about 65, 75 beats a minute. Okay. And you got to be able to understand the difference. Because there's 3 stages to disaster response. And the first one is people don't believe that it's happening, so they're in denial. The longer you stay in this stage, you lessen your chances of survival. The longer you stay in the denial stage, you lessen your chances of surviving. When you keep saying to yourself, I can't believe this is happening, I can't believe this is happening, you need to believe it, so you can start figuring out what it is you need to do. So you can start deliberating and figure it out. Okay. If you're at home, God forbid, and the house catches on fire, you can't say to yourself, I can't believe the house is on fire, because it is. Okay. So you need to start figuring out what you need to do. Do I need to get the kids out? Do I need to call 911? Do I need to get a fire extinguisher? You need to start deliberating, and then you need to put that deliberation in action. The decisive moment. It's time to go to work. Okay. Because the house is on fire. We figured that out. Okay. So get out of that denial stage really quick. I hit the denial stage. I'm in it and I'm out just like that. Okay. So here she tells him, sorry guys. She says, denial is the first stage of it. He cuts her off and says, you don't know what you're talking about, which means he's in what? He's in denial. So, quick question for each of you. Is there safety in numbers? That's what most people would say. Let's just see.
Place like this street in New York City, if you were unfortunate enough to be the victim of a crime or taken ill unexpectedly, you might think that surrounded by all these people, someone would intervene. After all, isn't there safety in numbers? Psychologists say no. Research suggests that often victims are less likely to receive assistance when surrounded by a group rather than a single bystander. When people are in a crowd, it's easier to pass the buck. It's what psychologists call the diffusion responsibility. Liverpool Street Station in London, a busy thoroughfare for commuters. Unknown is passing by, Peter is an actor. As part of an experiment with bystander apathy, he's pretending to be ill. How long before he gets home? Helping to be inconvenient or even risky. He lies for more than 20 minutes. No one raises an eyebrow.
It's always very distressing to watch situations like this where people are often suffering and no one can help them. But what we have here is two conflicting rules. One is the rule we ought to do, and the other rule that we ought to do everybody else is doing. And here you have a group of effectively good students who are exerting the pressure not to intervene, not to help, and expecting them to rebel. Rude, another act that takes Victor's place. How long before she begins out?
Four minutes later, 30 people have passed without. Unwittingly, these strangers silently attempt to recruit with a rule: don't follow. They're afraid to step out from the crowd and won't take action if no one else does. This victim has clearly spotted them, but she conforms to the rule, does nothing. Watch what happens though when someone else helps. She suddenly finds herself in a different, with a new to help.
Then I sort of see breathing, and I looked around and I could believe that lower the next one, there was a boat then absorbed in the newspaper.
So, what one thing all those people passing by those folk could have done to help them? Just pick up the phone, right? Here's the thing. Everybody in here it is not their lane to walk over to that person and say, hey, are you okay? Okay. But we can all pick up the phone as we walk by and call it in. Because none of us here is exempt from passing out like these people. Wouldn't you want somebody to call for you? Because when we see something, we should what? Say something. And here's the thing. We get caught up in, man, I don't want to call the police and bug them because it might not be anything.
Well, let us figure that out. But what if you don't call and it is something, right? So just pick up the phone and call. Now, here's the thing. Some of y'all in here are those people that walk over and say, "Hey, are you doing okay?" Then that's your lane to be able to do that because that's who you are. You know who you are.
Right? And that's okay. But that's not for everybody. But everybody, like I said, can pick up the phone and make that phone call. Okay? So we all have one of these, right? It's debatable. But here's the thing science has proven under stress, the human brain goes to the capability of a lizard's brain. Okay? So you need to be able to understand that under stress, that things are going to happen to you differently because when the stress level rises, so does your heart rate. Okay? And that stress response ends up being different, right? You end up hitting that fight, flight, or freeze syndrome when that heart rate elevates from that stress. And when that stress hits you, some things starts happening with your heart rate, right? We already talked about it. Your vision goes from about this much down to this much. Your hearing goes from this much to this much. What do you have to do in order to get your vision to come back and your hearing to come back? How do we get your heart rate down? Get your breathing together. How do we breathe? We inhale. Inhale through the nose. Hold it 2, 3, 4 seconds. Exhale out the mouth. That allows your heart rate to lower. Your stress level will follow. Your vision starts to come back as well as your hearing. You need to be able to understand that. Okay. Um, I can't tell you how crucial it is because right now we're sitting in here 60, 75 beats a minute, no stress. I get you up, have you do just a slow walk, I get you up to 90 beats a minute. I get you up and have you jog a little bit, 120 beats a minute. Some sprints, 150 beats a minute. What can happen to you if you're not getting your heart rate up to 175 plus beats a minute? Heart attack. What else? Stroke, right? So here's the thing. As a very young police officer, I used to work night shift on the Beltway, and I get into a lot of pursuits. And 20 plus years ago, I was much younger, much lighter, right? 30 plus pounds lighter. If you run from me, I'm gonna catch you. Okay. So of course, our first pursuit, the guy rigs out, he runs from me, jumps a couple fence. I'm right behind him. I catch him, get him in handcuffs, walk him, put him in the car. I get in the front seat and I go, the smell. He crapped his pants. Okay. Second guy I catch. Same thing. Walking him back to the car a week later, crapped his pants. So by the third guy I caught, I'm like, wait a minute, why is everybody I'm catching crapping their pants? Here's the thing. The body is a machine. It tells you we need to get rid of what we don't need before we have a heart attack or stroke. So you will urinate and defecate on yourself uncontrollably. That's not anything that you can stop happening, right? I responded to Santa Fe High School when we had the active shooter there. Went inside the school with another 5 guys, 6 of us on the team. We went to the second floor, got kids out that were injured, things like that. We had another group of 6 guys that were on the first floor. We all come out, all 12 of us, get in a big circle to have a big debrief. And 11 of the 12 guys had urinated on ourselves, including me, because the stress level got that high, heart rate got that high, right? And there's only one guy in the group that didn't. And we're all looking at him like, what's going on, dude? What did he say? I went to use the bathroom before I went to the school. right? So it happens to us too. And you just kind of have to know that. That's why it's very important. And y'all do the same thing, right? You get ready to leave work. What do most of us do before we leave work? You go to the bathroom. Why is it? Because you know that when you get in your car to drive home, how much stress you're going to be under, how your heart rate's going to be when you're driving or you're traveling to and from. Whether you're in the passenger seat or not, you already know the stress level is going to go up. So the human brain says, go use the bathroom before you get under that amount of stress. So it's always important to listen to that. Okay. So here's a store in Israel where a guy walks in with a big gun. He wants to shoot people. For those of us in here that have kids, when we put them in the stroller, what do we have to do next? Strap them in, right? No issues with remembering that. We've done it countless amounts of times, especially not being under stress, right? Well, what happens when you're under stress? So a guy walks in, getting ready to shoot people. They're ripping and running all over the place, pushing each other down. She's going to take the baby out of the stroller without unbuckling him. This is what stress does to you, okay? And you have to be able to understand that because she has never had to take the baby out of the stroller under stress, right? So this is new to her. So she responds differently, okay? So here we have a floor plan of a station hotel where the band Great White is being, okay? And when we look at it, we see the stage here, right? And there's a fire that breaks out because they shoot off some pyrotechnics and it catches the ceiling. We have some red circles. How many red circles do we have? 4. What do they represent? Exits. So when the fire starts here, how many exits do we have now? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. We have 15 exits. So here's the thing. If you hadn't come up with in your mind prior to the fire starting that it's okay for me to break a window and go out of it, it's not going to come to you after the fire starts. You have to have that plan already in place. Okay? Because once that stress level hits you, it's going to be too late to come up with a plan to say, you know what? I'm going out the window. Okay? Because when the fire starts, we got a quick video of the fire. Here we go. What's the cameraman doing? He's leaving. And we got one guy that's killing everybody. It's one person saying, go back. Because he's got out of the denial stage really quick and realized that we're in trouble. Finally, the smoke alarm goes off, right? So, same floor plan, just a little different angle, but we got some numbers and some circles on there. Anybody want to take a guess on what that means? Those are people that were killed. 100 people perished in this fire. Okay? How many people at the front door? 31 people at the front door. Why so many people at the front? Yeah, but why we have 31 there? So here's the thing. We are all creatures of habit. That's the door that they came in. So in their minds, that's the door I have to go out. Excuse me. Because in essence, that's really not it. But I want you to think about something. Show of hands, who goes and does any grocery shopping at like H-E-B or something? Right? So When we go into HEB, we have a pharmacy entrance, and then we have a produce entrance. Most of us go inside of the produce side. We go do all our shopping, and we leave out on the produce side because that's where we parked our car. Well, what if you're in the back of that store in the dairy and something bad happens? The average person is going to run all the way back to the store and go out on the produce side because their car's parked over there. When realistically, you could go out the back of the store. Even though the sign says authorized personnel only, well, guess what? You just got authorized. Okay? But if you don't have that up here in the file cabinet, I call this the file cabinet. If you don't have that up here in the file cabinet prior to something bad happening when you're at the store, then you're not going to know that you can go out that door. Same thing when you go watch a movie at the theater. Most of us go up the little ramp, we go up the steps, we have a seat, watch the movie. The movie's over. We wait for a few minutes and let the crowd clear out. We go down the steps, down the ramp, out the door we came in. No one hits the side exit. What happens when something goes wrong in that theater? Where's everybody going? Out the door they came in. No one's going to hit the side exit. That's why the sign is up lit saying exit. It's simply saying, hey, I'm over here, use me. Right? So you got to have that plan prior to the disaster moment starting. Because it's hard to get a plan in place once the disaster moment is starting. For those of us in here that watch sports or play sports, before the play starts, you got to have something in place first. Because once the play starts, it's hard to get it in gear if it's afterwards, right? You're going to struggle. So we got one guy in the kitchen, right? If he's in the kitchen, we have to assume he does what? He's a cook. Well, what's this right here? So he's that close to the exit, but he doesn't survive. Why is that? Because we hear the smoke alarm go off, right? Who said it? He's in denial. He hears the smoke alarm go off, but he doesn't believe that there's a fire. And then smoke overtakes him and kills him right in there. Hi, baby. So here we have a security guard working this door here, right? Because here's the dressing room for the band. And they tell him, under no circumstances are you to allow anybody in or out of this door unless they are a part of the band. And then when the fire starts, people run to that door to get out. And what does he tell them? Can't go through here. You're not part of the band. Which brain does he have? He has a lizard brain, just that fast. Okay? So you can't put anybody in that security role or position. You have to be able to distinguish. Okay, you told me not to let anybody out that's not part of the band, but right now, that's out the door. It's an emergency. And you have to be able to distinguish the two, being in that role of security, life saving, right? So here's the front door, just a little bit, right? None of those people made it. So it's very important to calm yourself. We've talked about the breathing and how important that is, right? Shift your emotions. And that bottom one says what? What does that mean to everybody? Exercise? I'll tell you what it means. It means stay mentally fit. You can exercise all day long. You can run marathons. You can lift weights. You can jump very high. You can run very fast. But you do all those things mentally before you physically do them. If you're not mentally fit, none of those things that you physically do will ever happen. Because I want y'all to understand something. We do every single thing we do mentally before we physically do it. Everybody in here mentally thought about what they wanted to wear today. You physically got dressed, unless you slept in it last night, right? So be able to understand how important your mental fitness is. You're driving here today. There's a green light out there on Belfort. You're coming up to the green light, and it turns to yellow. You mentally supposed to say, I need to physically take my foot off the gas and put it on the brake. But some of us in here, yellow means what? Go faster. Yeah, he said it. Not good. So scripted practices, right? Scripted is just running it here in your mind of what you would do. It gives you a head start, just like movie stars and actors. They read a script, they remember it. So when it's time to act it out, they know exactly what they're going to say and do. And then practice it. Speaking of practicing, do we practice a fire drill? Right? At your job, at the kids' school, practice a fire drill, right? Now I ask this of you. Who in here, if you don't live alone, has a fire drill for their own home? Because if you don't, and you don't live alone, and God forbid the house catches on fire, you go out the front, your significant other goes out the back, what are you going to think? That they're still inside. But if you got a plan, and you loaded that script in your file cabinet, that hey, if this happens, we're going to meet across the street at our nosy neighbor's house. Okay? It just puts you ahead of the game right there. So I know it's Sunday, and I know y'all probably didn't think y'all were going to have any homework when y'all left the presentation today. But I beg of you to take 5 minutes when you get home with your loved ones and just come up with a plan of what we would do at the house caught on fire. Because some of us have two stories. We need to think about what we would do if we were upstairs in the house catching on fire. It's time to come up with that plan now instead of the day that the house catches on fire, right? So when you come up with that plan now, you're able to save yourself, save your family, save lives. So y'all got homework tonight. It ain't gonna take about 5 minutes. We agreed? All right. Rick Riscola. Anybody know who this guy is? No? Who said yes? You know who Rick Riscola is? Yes, ma'am. You are correct. Thank you so much for remembering. Wow. So Rick Riscola was a VP, head of security of Dean Witter Morgan Stanley in the World Trade Center, right? The very first time that terrorists attacked the World Trade Center was in 1993. And 3 months before that attack, Rick tells them in a meeting that all that the terrorists have to do is get some explosives, put them inside of a van, and drive that van into the parking garage up underneath the building because the parking garage was not secure. Fast forward 3 months, what did terrorists do? Exactly that. The very first attack on the World Trade Center. Fast forward to 9/11, Rick's up to the same old things. He's responsible for saving 2,700 lives on 9/11. He is that guy. That's what you call a hero, right? Last seen going inside of the South Tower before it collapsed, right? Rick was that guy. For those of you that don't know, the World Trade Center was 112 stories tall. Rick was that guy that made it do fire drills. And if you're on the 99th floor that day, you're doing a fire drill, what are you going to have to do? Go down 99 flights of stairs. And they didn't like it because of it until 9/11. Because the people that were on the 99th floor went down 99 flights of stairs, and he had to mentally prepare to do so, and it felt like it was just 9 flights of stairs. That's some powerfulness right there. Be able to have somebody respond in that fashion where they go down 99 flights and it feels like 9 flights. That's a mental fitness right there. Huge, right? I don't think we need to hear that. That's going to be loud. I don't want y'all to hear that. It's going to sound like a gunshot, but I want y'all to understand something. If you multiply this sound by about 50, because inside of a facility, a gunshot is much louder than it is outside. Probably 50 times louder. So when I push the button, it's going to sound like a gunshot. Y'all ready? All right. So when you hear it, even though I told you your heart rate's going to increase, right? So imagine if you are inside of a facility and you hear multiple shots, then people run straight to the denial stage and go, are they popping fireworks in the store today or what? And even if they are, it's time for you to leave. Agreed? Okay. So is playing dead an option? Absolutely not. Okay. This is Christina Anderson. She was in Virginia Tech at that active shooter where 32 were killed and 17 were wounded. I'll let y'all hear her.
We heard the first shots around 9:40 a.m. I was sitting on the wall of the classroom, so in the hallway, and I could hear the shots getting closer and closer very quickly. I mean, there was only a few seconds between the first time we heard them when he actually walked in. To me, it sounded like act taken to a piece of wood. And our teacher opened the door, and she immediately took the door and she called 911. And right then, he walked in for a second after. There was absolutely no time to think or to die or to recover. People just kind of fell to the floor. And he really wasn't shooting, and he went to the other side of the classroom and he started going down the road. He went down the road very purposefully. And thinking, your turn is coming, you're going to get shot. I mean, you know, something bad. He came back around 3 times, and on the third time, he took it. In between each time he was there, you just hear people crying and coughing, the cell phone ringing. When he was in my class, I remember trying not to breathe very much, so he couldn't talk alive. Because as he was hitting the chair, he's breathing, he's staying alive, and it was scary. I'll never forget when this was around the officer of the class said, "We have a lot of months in there." And at the time, I couldn't comprehend what he was talking about, like 300 things. And I remember looking to the clock on the right and realized, you know, what meant. He looked over and he said, first he said yellow, and then he said red. When I first started, I still couldn't see. I was shocked right in his life. Everything. What do you see? Like, what do you see on that you would change? He killed 12 people.
So being able to understand when you're trying to play dead, your heart rate's going to be elevated, stress levels high because this is a stressful situation. And when that's occurring, your breathing is so it's kind of hard to convince somebody that you're playing dead when I can see you breathing and I can hear you breathing, right? Hide, that's not okay. Because when you're doing that, and I walk up to you to shoot you as you're under the table and the gun goes click instead of bang, you're not going to know it. Because when the gun goes click instead of bang, it is an opportunity for you to do something. Okay? Be able to understand that. So here we have avoid, deny, defend, which is alerts model. And then we got run, hide, fight, which is Homeland Security. Similar concepts and principles, but an alert, we want you to avoid the attacker. We don't want you to just take off running because sometimes inside the facility it's kind of hard to tell where gunfire is coming from. So you just can't take off running. You have to take a second, right? And then we have deny versus hide. Be really good to come in here, lock the door, deny him access, barricade it, whichever, and then go hide, versus just running in here, leaving the door open, leaving it unlocked, and then go and hide first, right? And then, of course, defend versus fight. I don't know about y'all, but as a little kid growing up, my mom always taught me, if that little boy hits you, you better defend yourself. Defending yourself is someone trying to harm you first versus just going, say, fight. Because I push this information to very small too, and if you tell them to go, then that takes on a different meaning, right? 2010 Panama City School Board meeting where a guy walks in, he's a little upset because they fired his wife, who was an English teacher. And he walks in, he paints a very circle on the wall with red paint with a big V in the middle of that circle. Does anybody know what that V stands for? Vendetta.
This would be the first step in that whole process.
He's spraying. What is everybody in? Let's start spraying. They're in denial. He pulls his gun out. We got one guy that gets up and says, okay, thank you, I appreciate it. And he leaves. Right? He says the women can leave. So let me grab the coat. Let me pick up my purse. Let me get my bag. Let me push this chair in. Why do we do that? Creatures of habit. Right? And there's always going to be one person that tries something. Here she goes. She tries to knock the gun out of his hand with her purse, and everybody did what? They froze. Right? They froze. So did they leave in a hurry? That one guy did. He said, hey, man, thank you. I appreciate that. And he was done. Right? And know your exit. And here's the thing. If all of us, God forbid, are in a place and something bad happened, I need a phone call from all people in here. Everybody needs to call 911 because you saw something different than everybody else. You may have saw the same thing, but you processed it differently here. Or you processed it correct, and they may not have. So that's why we need a phone call from each person. Because you've seen something, so it means you have to say something. Yes. That's the same story with the baby with the stroller. We see the guy walk in with the big gun, but we look at the third car. Passengers already got out of that third car and took off running. And now finally, the driver gets out because it took him a little longer to get out of the denial stage than the passenger did. That's why he was still sitting in the car. Then we have a few people run to the back of the store. For those of y'all that can't tell, we have a female here that's squatting down with her hands over her face, and her male companion is right here beside her. I know that their heart level is very high and their stress, which gives them tunnel vision and auditory exclusion because they don't see the door to get out. That's how much stress they're under. Nor do they see the ladder for roof access that she's leaning on. Right? This is what stress does to us, folks. You can sit here right now and say, hey, I'll be fine. Or what were they thinking? It's the fact that their stress level is that high. Right? So locked doors, lights out of sight. We saw that on the first video. Barricade the hip. Okay? And in order to do that, you need to know what type of doors that you have. Here we have an inward opening door, but first thing we have to do what? Remove this box that they knocked over getting in there,
be able to do what to the door? Close the door, right? Then we can start barricading it, buying ourselves some time, get our breathing together, and then be able to see that there's a door there to exit as well as a ladder, right, for roof access. Understand the difference between outward opening and inward opening doors, right? That one's outward opening is inset on the frame, right? Here we did this training deal with U.S. Army guys. They came on their own. They decided to stand on either side of the door. Now, this is not everybody. Everybody can't do that. Those of you in here know that, hey, that would be my position. Then you already know that that's you. Okay? And they ended up throwing up something in his head to distract him. Because we taught this guy, we told him, we said, hey, once you go through the threshold, this is the threshold right here, right? The doorway. Once you go through, we want you to start shooting people. Well, as soon as he went through, they threw something up in his head. So the fact of him wanting to shoot people changed. He wanted to figure out, what did they throw in my head first, right? So it's just changing his mindset. And all it takes is a second to do that for those guys to be able to grab the gun, right, and start fighting. So same store with maybe with the people hiding in the back. Remember, I told you there's always going to be that one person that kind of takes control of everything. Here this guy is. He's always on the phone calling it in, right? And then finally he said, "Hey man, let me call you back. This dude's shooting people." And he grabs a bottle of wine. Okay. And some of us would say, well, the guy has a rifle, right? And then he has a bottle. Well, that's the other option right there. This guy here wants to play dead. Not an option at all, right? So Lieutenant Brian Murphy, good friend of mine from Oak Cliff, Wisconsin, showed up to an active shooter. He was the first officer on the scene at a Sikh temple. And Brian says, I knew it was real because I saw two people down on the ground on the sidewalk that had been shot and killed in front of the temple. And then I see the suspect come out the front door of the temple. About 50 yards away, Brian raises his gun up and he shoots at the guy and he misses. Well, that guy was military trained. He shoots back and he gets Brian in the chin, in the face, right? And Brian says, man, I'm hurt. So he goes down behind a car in the parking lot. And as he's waiting there, hoping the suspect would pop out in front of him, but like I said, the suspect is military trained, so he flanked him. He came around. He walked up on Brian. And he shoots Brian 15 times. While Brian's on the floor, on the ground outside, he said, I got tired of getting shot, so he slid up underneath the car that he was hiding behind. And while he's up underneath the car, I'll tell you exactly what he thought. He didn't think, man, I'm going to die because I've been shot 15 times. I'll tell you what he thought. He said, if you want, you can Google him and watch his YouTube video. Google his name. He's lying on the ground up underneath the car. He's like, man, my wife's going to be upset with me. We ain't going to be able to go on vacation next week. I didn't mess around and got shot. His mental mindset took him there into the I'm going to die. Because here's the thing. If you say it, you just spoke it into existence. If you say, man, I'm going to die because I've been shot 50 times, well, you're done, right? Your mental mindset is that strong, believe it or not. We've heard it countless times in our lives. If you put your mind to it, you can do it. Well, there's a lot of truth to that, okay? What you do matters. The attack starts. We want you to avoid first, right? And if you can't avoid, you need to deny access to where you are and look for other exits, right? And if all else fails, you better defend yourself. Fair enough? So here we have the attack. That's actually Christina Anderson there that y'all heard her speak earlier. That was shot in the back 3 times while she was trying to play dead. And the attack actually started on the opposite side of campus where there was a dorm room. He killed some people in the dorm to make law enforcement respond over there first. And then came over here to Norris Hall where he chained the inside of the doors to slow law enforcement down even more. Went to the second floor and started shooting people in these classrooms. He went to 206 first, where all the red
Squares is somebody he killed. Yellow is somebody he shot. Green is someone who's not physically. Then he went to the door and he shot 11 more people. So now we have a total of 22 people that's been shot. So that's at least 22 rounds, and people are still in denial even after hearing at least 22 rounds, probably more, because he goes next door to 211 and he shoots everybody, right? Finally, we start figuring that something's going on, and we have a Holocaust survivor who was the professor of this classroom, God bless him. So he tells his kids to jump out the window. But sir, we're on the second floor. He says, I don't care. Jump. And he saves his kids. He's holding the door closed with another student. The shooter comes to the door, can't get in, shoots through the door, and he shoots and kills the professor and the student there. Here we have a red X where they denied him access. As we see, those classroom doors are open inward toward the class. Somebody taught this kid this. He lied on the floor in front of the door and put his feet on the door as he's lying on his back. He had another student come lay beside him and put their feet on the door. And then he had two more students lay behind them and put their feet on their shoulders. So now you have four people's dead weight holding the door closed, right? The shooter comes to that door, tries to get in, and he can't, and he steps back and shoots through the middle of the door. That's your result when you deny him access. No one in this room was physically hurt, but mentally, lifetime injury. Okay? So just the percentage of people that were shot and or killed in those classrooms, as we can see, 205 is a big zero because they denied him access. So when we get there, follow commands, three hands, we got a little bit of work to do. We're there to stop the killing first. Then we're there to stop the dying. What that simply means is, if there's two people down in this room and I hear another shot, to me, that's three people. If I hear another shot, that's four people. I have to go put a stop to that and then come back and stop people from dying out to a high level of care. Okay? So here's an active back of an active scene where these two officers are talking to each other in the hallway and they have a safe corridor set up. I want y'all to listen to what the officer says at the very end.
Thank you. Thank you. Try to relax. Relax. I'll take a bullet after. It's cool, okay?
He says, I'll take a bullet before you do. I'm here to tell you, I hate saying it, but every officer can do that for you. I want you to be able to understand that. Okay? We found that out. We also found it out in Parkland as well. But I will tell you this. If you're somewhere and I'm there, you're safer because I understand God's purpose for me. I ask this again. What is every police officer's number one goal every day at the end of his shift? Should it be? A good friend of mine once told me cops aren't paid to go home. Because if my number one goal is to make it home safe and they're killing people across the way, then I'm not going over there if that's my number one goal. My number one goal is to save lives. And if I perish in doing so, so be it. It's God's purpose for me. I'm okay with that. But here's the thing. He's not done using me, so I'm not going anywhere. That's why he keeps me trained up mentally, emotionally, and physically. Right? So training EMS is not a bad idea to get training yourself to help save people because a lot of people sometimes end up getting hurt and injured. So it's not a bad idea to get some additional training. Stop the Bleed has some good information on it. Doesn't have to be an active shooter. This could be a car crash, right? Could be y'all at the park with the kids and they fall down on an object. Average time for EMS to respond is 7 minutes to a regular call. Okay? You got to break your arteries from both arms here. You sever each artery. you can bleed out in 2.5, 3 minutes. You got familial arteries here. You sever either one of those arteries, you can bleed out in 1.5 to 2 minutes. And I just told you it takes EMS 7 minutes to get to the scene. Okay, so it's not a bad idea to have some of this equipment yourself, tourniquets, things like that, chest seals. You can get some of that stuff on Amazon, but I suggest don't buy the $9.99 one. Average tourniquet is going to cost you about $35. Okay, and if you're looking at doing things like that, put it in your car. 2 is 1 and 1 is none. What does that mean? If you're going to get a tourniquet, you need to get 2 of them. Because when mom sent you to school years ago, she sent you to school with 2 pencils. You can only write with 1. So right now, I have 3 tourniquets on me. I have 3 chest seals on me. I have 2 guns on me. I have 2 flashlights on me. I have 2 knives on me. That's just how I do it. Not saying that you have to do it, but I understand God's purpose for me, so I have to have some for friends too. Okay? So expect a little mental trauma and develop some type of stress incident management plan. And throughout the whole presentation, y'all didn't hear me name any of the attackers because at alert, you don't name them. You shouldn't know who they are at all. The people that you should know is individuals like this. This is Victoria Soto, who was a first grade teacher at Sandy Hook, and she put her entire classroom in a storage closet in her class, and she could not fit. And when the shooter came into her class, she said, "My class is at the gym." He raises the rifle up, shoots her in the forehead, and he walks out. These are the people that the media need to be telling you about instead of talking about the shooter, right? Angela McQueen, she actually walked up to the attacker and took the gun from him at her school and held the gun on him at gunpoint until law enforcement showed up. Now, with that being said, for those of you in here that may have a license to carry and something bad like this happens, I suggest you neutralize that target. You don't want to be standing there like this with a gun on somebody when law enforcement show up. If you neutralize that target, I know neutralizing, right? You put it on. You put your gun away because that person is no longer a threat. Because law enforcement show up, all they're going to see is that gun in your hand. And I can tell you right now, all cops don't train the same. We've already talked about that. Okay. So, quick message here from my boss.
Hello, I'm Constable Ted Heath. I'd like to thank each of you for attending our civilian response course. I truly believe that by educating and working cooperatively with the people in our community, we can save lives. The avoid, deny, defend concept that you learned about today is vital to help you stay safe in a critical. Please feel free to share this information with your family, your friends, and your coworkers. And remember, what you do matters. If you need this training, business, church, and school, I encourage you to contact us. We offer training free of charge so that this important information can be available to everyone in our community. Again, thank you for attending. I'm proud to serve the citizens of Harris County as the constable of Precinct 5, and working together, we will make our community a safer place to live.
Takbir. Wow, that was a lot of very useful information. Again, thank you very much. So before we are going to have allow some room for questions, but before we get into that, what we're doing today, we're gonna actually have a panel of our youth come up as well and will be kind of like an interactive session where we get some of their thoughts and then with the chief as well helping us out with the questions. So panelists, you know yourselves, please start getting ready. Before we get into that though, I'm going to call Imam Abdurrahman Adishoko to come and give us about 2-3 minutes of overview of what was just said in our Yoruba language so that our I know it's a short period of time to do justice, but
thank you. Is that so? Thank you.
Yes,
I appreciate it. Alhamdulillah, I'm proud of Lord. gbogbo ìta gbọ́lẹ̀ ní ọlọ́jọ́ kò sí aláǹfààní 2 minutes 3 minutes wọ́n fún mi báwọn rí pípọ̀ tí ń jọ ti pọ́ọ̀tì mi kalẹ̀ tí wọ́n ní kí n translate tó sọ lẹ́nu sí Yorùbá ẹ kí n lò bí another at least minimum of 30 minutes because I wonder because it might be spiritual aspect of the lecture mo máa add it. Ẹ jẹ́ kí n summarize ohun tí ó ti ń bá wa sọ látàárọ̀ bí Islam ṣe fi kọ́ wa nínú nǹkan tá a ní èdè láti prepare ara wa fún gẹ́gẹ́ bí olùgbàgbọ́ òdodo àkọ́kọ́ ni our iman in Allah ìgbàgbọ́ wa nínú Ọlọ́run wípé gbogbo tó wọn bá ní ó ṣẹlẹ̀ ṣẹ̀dá láyé ó máa ṣe kí ni ó máa ṣẹlẹ̀ ṣùgbọ́n a nítorí pé a nígbàgbọ́ nínú Ọlọ́run káwá mọ̀ mọ́ àwọn tó yẹ ká mọ̀ ni ló fi jẹ́ pé gbogbo rẹ̀ ṣe pàtàkì Ọlọ́run ti fún wa ní ìbá ìkura wípé òun òun bí ṣe ìmílẹ̀ lọ́kàn fi wá láti wọ́n ní Quran chapter 2 verse 155 Ọlọ́run ní pé ẹ fẹ́ ẹ̀kọ́ lánàá bí wọ́n náà fi ṣe ìmílẹ̀ lọ́kàn fi wá lójú a máa tẹ̀sí yín o pẹ̀lú àwọn díẹ̀ nínú tí ó máa dẹ́rù bà yín owó gbogbo ìbẹ̀rù tí ń bàbá wa ń sè kẹ́nìkan wọlé láti bí nísìn kákàwé gbọ́ kù lẹ́ẹ̀kan náà oníkàlùkù mọ̀ wá pẹ̀ jáde wọ́n wá sí wa wọ́n ní pé nínú ẹ̀kọ́ mẹ́ta pàtàkì tí ẹni àkọ́kọ́ máa rẹ́dì fún àkọ́kọ́ ni báwo la fi máa avoid kí wàhálà tó mú kàn wá wọ́n ṣàlàyé nínú bọ́ọ̀sì avoid ni pé káwọn náà bá ti sáré jáde ló fi jẹ́ pé ilẹ̀kùn ó pọ̀ báyìí tó ti wáyé wọ́n ní nǹkan kejì káwọn náà láti deny ẹni tí ó ń bọ̀ láti attack wa bí dàbí tó ṣe pé káwọn alágbèéká wọ́n láti tilẹ̀kùn pa ara kọ́ọ̀rọ̀ láti deny àti wọlé ní wọ́n sọ nínú àwọn ọ̀rọ̀ wọn kí gbogbo káàkó gbé ẹ̀jẹ̀ láti fún fóònù ẹ̀ kí bí ọgbẹ̀yìn àwọn pé 911 bẹ́ẹ̀ ni ẹnìkan wọlé wọ́n ṣàlàyé fún mi pé tí wàhálà rẹ̀ bá dé ọkàn oníkálùkù máa lọ sókè àbí stress wà pọ̀ lára oníkálùkù táàtì ẹni kọ̀ǹpútà yà sí ṣùgbọ́n pẹ̀lú ìgbàgbọ́ nínú Ọlọ́run tí wọ́n bá tún ní àtúndé kí agbára wa lékún sí nínú nǹkan kejì òun náà ní knowledge irú nǹkan yìí ẹ̀rí pé knowledge ṣe pàtàkì a ti sọ̀rọ̀ nínú ìgbàgbọ́ nínú Ọlọ́run a ti sọ̀rọ̀ nípa pé ẹni tí ó fẹ́ ṣẹ̀dá láyé knowledge ní ó ṣe pàtàkì àwọn náà ti kọ́ rẹpẹtẹ sí wọn láti gba certificate kọ́ lọ kó sí aláǹfààní. nínú tí Islam tó fi kọ́ wa ní ká prepare fún gbogbo orú nǹkan báyìí ẹ gbogbo ẹ̀kọ́ tó ń kọ́ wa yẹn ẹ má fẹ́ bàbá kọ́ lọ ní níbà kó gba lessons kó ṣe training kó ṣe gbá kó ṣàwọ Islam ti sọ fún wa tipẹ́tipẹ́ tàbá Quran chapter 8 verse 60 Ọlọ́run ní pé wà ìgbóhùnlẹ̀ mastata'tum min quwwa wa min ribatil khayl turhibuna bihi aduwwallahi wa aduwwakum wa a'iddu lahum mastata'tum min quwwa gbogbo ń kálukú tó prepare sẹ́yìn tó bá láyà láti ra bá wọn ní kéèyàn ó rà á kéèyàn bá sọ pé wọ́n tẹ̀ mọ́ dẹ́rùbà yẹn wípé bá ọmọ kékeré kan lè mú wọ́n ní a lè ṣe náà kí ara sèèfù wọ́n ní sèèfù wa tún rèé a bá ní pé kóòdù la fẹ́ máa fi sí kóòdù yẹn mi tí bẹ̀rù bá ti yẹn tẹ̀lé rẹ kóòdù mi ṣùgbọ́n tó bá jẹ́ pé ọwọ́ fingerprint wa tá a bá ti kàwé òtí sí ara òun láti sí kọ́lọ̀kọ́ pẹ̀lú wa wọ́n ní gbogbo àwọn ọmọ wa kọ́ wọn lẹ́kọ̀ọ́ kọ́lọ̀kọ́ pẹ̀lú wa nínú ohun tí mùsùlùmí tó gbọ́dọ̀ gbáradì fún òun náà ní àdúrà mùsùlùmí gbọ́dọ̀ gbáradì pẹ̀lú kí ni o pẹ̀lú àdúrà ní gbogbo àdúrà pátá lára mi kọ́ wa tá a bá fẹ́ jáde nínú ilé wa kí kọ́lọ̀kọ́ sọ wa nínú aburú bisimilahi tawakkaltu ala Allah wala hawla wala quwwata illa billahil aliyyil azim. Tá a bá ń jáde lọ nìyẹn. Tá a bá fẹ́ wọ ọjà, torí ẹni wàhálà lè ṣẹlẹ̀ lọ́jà. Kí lànà bí kọ́ wa? La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu lahul mulku wa lahul hamdu yuhyi wa yumiit wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir. Nínú táwọn agbọ́dọ̀ tún mà, òun náà ní ká wá gẹ́gẹ́ bí olùgbàgbọ́ òdodo. A gbọ́dọ̀ rẹ́dí fún àtúnwáhùn fíma baynana. Al-muqtadin wal muqtabin. Àwọn tí wàhálà fẹ́ bá ṣẹlẹ̀ sí kọ́lọ́mọ́dé kò ṣẹlẹ̀ sẹ́ni kankan wa. Ká gbọ́dọ̀ fi pé àkíyàn lọ fi sànù, kí wọ́n lọ fi ẹ̀ fún wọn. Irú ẹ̀ ṣẹlẹ̀ ní ìlú Palestine nísìnyí, gbogbo tó kálukú bá ní àwa náà rírì ní fún gbà. Wọ́n ń gbà pé àti mọ́sáàsì ká sọ sí àwọn tó bá ṣẹlẹ̀ sí. Èyí tá a gbọ́ náà kó ìkùsì wa láǹfààní. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Yeah, um, so so we're still gonna have you around, but we want to recognize your efforts in always coming here when we ask for your help to give us training, and so we're presenting you with just a little token here.
On behalf of our community, Nigerian Association of Greater Houston, must nominate and say thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I will say this really quick. I have probably taught this class to 5 times, 490 or so, and this is the only place that has forgiven something like this. And so I actually have them ones I got last time displayed in my office, and of course, this will be in the same place. So thank y'all so much.
So another thing, I would say we purposely didn't put the year on this one, so you can always claim that it's brand new.
Thank you.
All right. So just moving on for time. We are going to move on to questions, and as I mentioned, we'll have a panel up front as well as part of this interactive session. And to come call the panel up, I'm going to call my dear brother Hemem.
Yes, thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
Assalamu alaikum. Again, my name is Mohammed Ilibede. Amen.
Name is Hemem.
Amen. Before all the panelists, my father was also a police officer, and I kind of relate with everything the chief has said. But I think it's also fair that while he has saving our life, we always also pray for all of them to go back home, because they also have family to see them every day they leave the house. So inshallah, every day as people, let's pray for them. And it has been fair. Not all policemen take the training the same way. So he has not come here to make us feel like, oh, all policemen are angels and all of that. He has been very balanced and be fair by returning the favor, by praying for these people when we see them. They have families, they are human beings, they have goals, they have and all that. May Allah protect our law enforcement officers and make the system a better place. Amen. So, after the whole discussion, we have to come and discuss further on these. And I have Sister Ganiyat Adi. Please. Why did you put sister? I take it back. Distinguished Dr. Ganiya Abi, GT. Sister Afsor Adediran. Sorry, I take that back too. Elijah Afsor Adediran.
Worldwide Elijah, not just any Elijah.
And then brother Hassan Lawa. Yeah, he's a brother. He's a brother. No, I'll take it. I'll take it forward. And then we have brother Lawa. Where is that? Yeah. And then we have to moderate this session. We have brother Abdullah Shiku. Where's brother Abdullah?
He's coming.
Oh, he's a brother too. Yes.
Yeah, he's a brother.
Yeah, he's a brother. Now we have Sister Latifa Adedeji.
And she's a sister.
Yeah, she's a sister.
Mhm.
All right. Panelists.
Yeah, no, he's not sitting down. He doesn't sit down. So, and these mics on the floor work as well. There you go. Whichever is convenient for you. And then you can have this. Do you need this?
Assalamualaikum, everyone. So we're going to be asking the panelists to give their perspectives based on what the chief told us today. He's just going to follow up with his own advice. So I'm just going to shoot the question out to the panelists and whoever feels comfortable in responding. So the first question is, what tips do you have for personal security when out in public? Who's comfortable responding? I can.
First, I would ask people to be aware of their surroundings, because most of what happens most times is that we are always on the phone and we are so oblivious of what is going on around us. Like the other day, I checked my phone and I was trying to say, like, I really wanted to answer to a text message and I was crossing the room. It was my husband who called me, tell me. And the car was backing up. What if the driver wasn't even looking at me, assuming that everything is cleared, and I wasn't looking up? And I watched the video on that. I don't know if it actually happened. It was just a precaution. This lady was in India or something like that. And honestly, the driver drove and then hit the person. And you know what? It was backing out. His car was actually, it was resistance. Yet he kept on. He kept on. He was thinking that what happened? He stopped and he went again. And that's what we ended up standing. And so we should put the phones down as times when we are out. And also, things happen for you to be able to describe what happened. Because if you call 911 and they're asking you what happened, but because you just happen to stop upon it, you're not conscious of what's going on, you cannot be able to describe it. Most times, they will say some things happen. Somebody can give a composite text. You actually find them to really saw the person. You notice everything, the clothes in the wearing, car it came from. You can get his phone number. So that's my own. That's what
I heard.
So, Chief, what do you have to say about this?
She's exactly correct. Okay. This right here is our best friend, but our worst enemy. Okay. When people get ready to do an attack, or when people get ready to want to try to rob you or steal from you, what they want is someone that's not paying attention, because you become very easy prey, a very easy opportunity. Easy is simply lack of effort. So they don't want to have to put a lot of effort in making the attack on you. So they want someone that's easy, which is someone that's not paying attention, someone that's on their phone, right? Because here's the thing, there's a time and a place to use this. Walking down the street, driving a car, is not those times, right? I consistently tell people, especially the females that are in my life, my sisters, my aunts, my daughter, please do not use this as you're walking across the parking lot to your car. Because here's the thing, someone is always, 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 always watching you, whether they have good intentions or bad ones. They're watching you. So that's perfect. Absolutely perfect.
So for Brother Hassan, mashallah, he's a young adult, young man. What personal tips do you have for safety?
Like Chief said, just be hyper vigilant because even when you're walking around, somebody's coming after you, blocking the place, especially in Houston. Also, I would recommend that because having a gun is not like even me. I don't want to carry a gun at my age. I'm 31, so especially for the sisters, sometimes the brothers carry mace. Like mace is easy to get at Walmart, and if somebody's coming at you from behind, open the eyes, go through. That's it.
Thank you. Does it quite what's it called? Audience have any questions for the panelists before I go to the next question? You do. Oh,
So,
sorry.
just to touch on what he just said, he said mace. Pepper spray is going to be your best friend instead of mace. Okay, mace is kind of like a mouthwash or something. Okay, pepper spray really has cayenne pepper in it. Okay, that's what they make it out of, and which is the exact same thing that I carry on this vest over here, right? This is pepper spray. You can actually get this at Academy. Civilians can have it. I have to be certified to use it. You do not. Okay. So mace, yeah. Pepper spray, yeah. Okay. I've used this in my 25-year career one time. 200 plus people were fighting at a soccer field, like such. I sprayed one guy and everybody stopped fighting. So it works really well.
Thank you. This question is actually for the chief. So, what other non-firearm, I guess, weapon we can carry with us without getting in trouble with the law? Like, in addition to pepper spray. Like, I don't want to carry my own pepper spray, like pocket knife. Like, what can I legally carry me without being in trouble?
So they also have for civilians, they have what we call stun gun. Okay. It's not a taser. Okay. I'll show you real quick. This is a taser, right? It will shoot out prongs with wires, right? But what the stun gun does is makes that sound, right? That's what the stun gun is. So it's not going to shoot anything out like law enforcement. Of course, I had to be certified to carry this as well. But as a citizen, you can buy this stun gun from Academy too. Okay. Now, only thing is with a stun gun is that means that person's got to be really close to you. Distance is your friend. So pepper spray probably a lot better because you sometimes you can hit them at 20 feet, 25 feet with pepper spray. With a stun gun, they're going to be up close and personal. Okay. Same thing with a knife. No, sir.
Okay, so the next question is going to be, what are some key safety measures individuals should take in their homes? And that's for the panelists.
Assalamu alaikum. So I would say that with what the officer already told us, like we should all as a family look at our home differently now. Go home and see if we have exit, alternative exit that are not blocked by other stuff. Because a lot of us, our homes have we have back doors, we have front doors, and but that the alternative exit that we might have been by different things, and we should also have it at the back of our mind. I remember when we were talking about how windows are exits too. Then I'm thinking, okay, how can we break that window to get out? So those are the kind of things that we need to have at the back of our mind ahead of time, so that when this event happens, then we will know what to do. But if we never thought about it, I'll just be looking at the window. I won't really think this chair could break it. So I believe that if you have a plan, like we've done here as a family, sit down, talk about it, and then we should not have fire extinguishers. I know I have in my house. I don't think I know how to use it. That's another thing. I have one or two that we bought at home, but I've never thought of to actually use it. So if I've never used it without a fire, when the fire is already hyperventilating, trying to calm myself down, I probably will not be able to open it. So those are the things we have. Those things that we have. He talked about pepper spray. I have pepper spray, but I never opened it. I probably not even remember know how to, you know. So now, what I would encourage all of us is it's good for us to try these things. Also, try to know how to use them. You know, is when we're talking about this kind of thing, you actually think it can happen to you. When things happen, we at the back of our mind, we think it's for other people. That it's some people that it happen to. So I think not only we listen to this and go home to get our homes equipped, but we should also and ourselves equipped. Also, whatever we buy, we should also try to know how to actually use them beforehand. Because I'm using that because of the in the video that was trying to bring the baby out without snatching the baby. It was something that it was a stressful situation. Whatever we should do that. We should try to learn how to use it. And then also, I think number one is prevention. Also, like for example, if you are traveling, or someone is home, maybe one person is home, make sure that you go online and say, "Oh, I'm traveling," because at times, when you update your status, Facebook, and all those things, it makes people to your home, Google. There might be some teenagers in the neighborhood who just want to make some money off of your home, and maybe they have some gun, a gun, they just take it and take it out. But if they come in and find someone, they might actually start shooting. So these are the kind of things that we should also put in place to think of possible ways for ourselves to make sure our light outside is on traveling, because when off, they think there's someone at home can come in. So those are the kind of things I can think about for home.
I just want a few tips to add. It said that most people don't lock their houses, and when robbery happens, it's not even first entry. They come in, open your door, they come in because we are so carefree and we are so trusting. We just leave the door open and at times it's open. You shut the door, but it's not locked. And so they will go easily come into your home. Also, we have to declutter. There are lots of messes around the house that we need to clear. Even if there's an emergency, you need to run, and there's a lot of things obstruct the entrances. It will also be danger. And also, I remember when I was in New Jersey, I had this room because I don't have storage. I had this room that is utility room, the machine room or something they put up. So I like to store something onto one of one of my friends and said that is an right there because the fire could come from that room and that all those boards and boxes could actually ignite fire and help the fire to grow more. So we should be cognizant of that, and we should be mindful of our, like you said, then we should talk about safety in the house and our yeah, escape, how we want to deal with it when they are not waiting to happen. And sure to have somebody to call in case they have a. They say when you're evacuating, have a place to evacuate. Let everybody know that this app this is where we. This is where we're. That's why they do drills and tools. And what other? Oh, okay.
Okay, those are perfect points. Um, I want y'all to understand something. You say you have pepper spray. What's wrong with buying two of them? So you can know how to use one, practice with one, and then your other one is the one that you carry with you all the time. Okay, pretty much everything that y'all see on that vest, I've used it and got certified with it and got good with it, right? Um, so it's not a bad idea. As I said before, two is one and one is none. Okay. Once you use that pepper spray, okay, now I got two of them, so I can train with one, and then the other one I take with me when I go places. So I know the effect that it will have. But if you don't know how to operate it and open it up and pop the top and squeeze the trigger, then what happens to you under that stressful moment if you've never done it before? You know, you're gonna fumble with it. That was another thing she touched on that I wanted to talk about.
The exits,
Uh,
social media.
I can't remember, but it was two things that you mentioned. But I want to say this to y'all, okay? Because I've heard it happen in here multiple times. I want y'all to hear me when I say this. Sound discipline is very important. I'm going to explain that. God forbid someone breaks into your house and you're there and you're in the closet, you're hiding, or whatever it is you are. Sound discipline is very important. So your phone cannot give away your position. But if it rings, if it makes a noise, if your smartwatch light flashes, it just gave away your position. Okay, so sound discipline is very important. When I am out and about, my phone is always, 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 always on vibrate. When I get home, I take it off vibrate because now I don't have it on me anymore and I set it down. But when you're out and about, sound discipline is by far one of the most important things. Just as, because if I don't see you, but I hear you, now I know where you are and I don't have to see you. I have the biggest problem with some of my deputies, the younger ones, especially with the smart watches that have all the colors and the iPhone watches that have all the colors and everything. And when I go and train and teach them, we could be doing night training where they're laying out there in the field. I'll send one of them a text message on purpose because I don't know where they are. I send him a text message on purpose, and his phone, his watch lights up, and I know exactly where he is. Okay, so be able to understand that. Same thing with the phone, with the light on the phone too, right? So y'all need to be able to understand that. You don't want to have to come up and figure that out during that stressful moment. That, oh my goodness, I should have my phone on silent or vibrate. Okay, so that's just one of those things for me as a habit. When I leave the house, it goes on vibrate before I leave. When I get back home, it goes on ring because I'm at the house. Does that make sense? I wish I could remember what else I wanted to talk about, but
Obstruction. Oh, and there's a question in the
yes, fire extinguisher. So getting another one just to test it out to see how do I use it, because when the fire starts, it's too late to try to learn how. So, and at that point, you just go, okay, this is what I do. I pull it out, I push it, and then that's a little bit. Now you're done. You can still use that one. not all done. You just take your finger off of the button, and you can put the pin back in, and now you got two. Remember, as I said, two is one, and one is none. Right? All the time, everything doesn't work. Why do I carry two guns? Just in case something happens to this one, then I got another one on my leg. Because we never know. This is a piece of equipment. Equipment fails. Why do I have two phones? Signal. One may be good, one not. I got Verizon, I got AT&T. You know, they fight against each other. So, you know, somebody else had a question back there.
To the chief, I kept reflecting about the situation, about the 12 officers that were debriefing, that one of the only one did not go themselves. Okay, so you as a person responding to a rapid situation, would that be, what's the wisdom in him trying to go before he enters the situation? Is there any wisdom? You just happen to do that, but I think it's a flight and fight reaction for someone responding to rapid response.
So the reason for that is, just like I said with yourself, is that one, he's probably responded to multiple attacks before, active shooters, and he probably experienced what we experienced, right, going on himself. So he knew at that point that he had to go to the bathroom. So he's like, okay, I don't want to do this again. Just like us, when we get ready to leave or even come here, we use the bathroom first. It is a mental decision that you make. It has nothing to do with your physical being. It is. Say that again.
I was thinking that time that it takes for him to go, because it's his duty to respond immediately. That time could be one life or more than one life lost.
So here's the thing. We don't rush everybody in the building all at once. Unfortunately, that happens a lot, but it should not. So at the point where we went into the building was probably about, because we already had guys in there, okay? And then what happens is when we have that first guy go in, he gives us what he calls a LCAN, LCAN, location, the location of where the attacker is or where the injured are, the conditions that he has. Hey, I got 10 people down in this room, okay? The actions that he's taking right now and what he needs, okay? So we have to wait. When we have the first group go in, then we have a second group. Then we have a third group. That's why we have multiple police agencies, multiple first responders from multiple departments to help solve that problem, because we need a lot of help. So I was probably 50 something miles away when Santa Fe happened. So I had to drive there first. So as you can imagine, one of my good friends who worked for Leak City Police Department, which was right down the street when it happened, he was dropping his kids off at the elementary. And then he got notification of shots being fired at the high school. He left the elementary and went straight to the high school. So that's probably the first responder there. So he's in there doing those things, saving lives and things like that. And as support, like myself, start showing up, we go, okay, what do you need? We need us to do. Okay, we hadn't checked this building, we hadn't checked that building. We need y'all, we form a team, because we can't assume that, okay, we got the shooter, he's down. We can't assume that that's just one. So when we go in, not only are we looking for injury, we're looking for another threat. And when you do that, stress levels up here, heart rates up here, some things may happen. So realistically, when I get ready to go to an active shooter scene, we had one that was a hoax at Heights High School. Year before last, they called in 9 fake active shooters at high school here in Texas. One of them was here in Houston, Heights High School, right? When I get the call, I don't rush over there. I was actually in the car wash, just the car wash, in the car. And I pull out, pull in the parking lot at Target at I-10 and Gessner, open the trunk, take that vest off, put my other vest on. Because that vest allows me to stop rifle rounds. This one's just pistol rounds. Same stuff on it, but just better equipped. So I have to stop and do that there. That takes time. Get my rifle out of the vault in the back of the car and put it in the front with me. Because when I pull up, I have to be ready to go. But if I needed to go to the bathroom at that point, then that's what would have happened. So that's why I
experience from the police officer, and you would judge with your situation what you need to do.
yes, situational awareness. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
We have what's it called? Time for one more question. Okay.
I'm Samuel. So this goes to the chief. She was talking about having a plan at home, especially in case of fire emergency. And you also mentioned about people living in two-story building. And I'm thinking, if you are at the second story building, and there is a fire, and you need to get out, and you're not just through the exit. We're talking about probably the windows, and you have kids in the house. What is the best way to exit the house safely? If you're gonna break the window, how do you go about it? Parts of the window, do you break? What is the advice to get that done? Safe parts, so you can.
Okay. First off, this is one of the reasons why we're having this is to find out things like this. The weakest part of the window, what do you think the weakest part of that door is for the glass? So I will show you. Someone said the center. The center is the strongest part of this glass right here. You know why? Because this is where everybody hits when they're going out.